Hey, Mr. Hall, how you doing today?
What's up, dude? Thanks for doing this.
Oh, dude, thanks for taking the time to do it with us, man. I'm super excited about this, and I'm really glad I could work it out. And I'm really excited to see you perform tonight.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Minnesota, I just left the Jason show over there at Fox, and it's going to be a good time this weekend.
Spectacular. Cool. So let's dive right on in. So you're the big return to stand-up tonight, and you performed in Minnesota years and years ago. So do you have any particular favorite memories of the state?
Yeah, you know what? It reminds me a lot of home. I was born and raised in Cleveland, and as strange as that may sound because the Vikings are so good and Cleveland is not so good, this region reminds me a lot of home, so I'm very comfortable here.
Cool. Do you recall by chance like your first time here or any particular favorite memories here?
Yes, I remember somebody giving me some walleye McNuggets that were laced with hemp, and it was the first time I ever had that experience. But we won't talk about that right now.
Completely understand. Yeah, I know. It's the low key delicacy. Yeah. Cool. So, and then one of our main chief, probably our finest export that we've had from Minnesota was Prince. And as I'm a huge hardcore Prince fanatic, and actually when he was on the reboot of your show in 2014, I was living in Harlem at the time, and I threw a party for it, and we all really enjoyed watching that episode. So I'm curious, making that episode itself.
Wow. Wait. Let me digest all that because there was a lot of cool information in that one sentence. But mostly, you threw a party in Harlem, and Prince came.
Oh no, he didn't come. No, just me and my friends, like my hardcore fellow Prince fanatic fans, watched the episode. So
that's kind of cool. That's very cool. He was real loose in that episode, man. Back in the day, Prince was a lot more guarded, and the thing that I found the most fun was the night before he said, "Let's do anything," because I told the writers that they could go to lunch because Prince is going to come, he'll perform, he's not going to entertain any silliness. And Prince said, "Oh, no, let's do it all." And he was looking through bits that the writers wanted to do, and he said, "Let's call somebody," because they had this one bit where they wanted Prince to call somebody and break up with him for somebody in the audience, and he did it. And he did a lot of fun stuff, man. We had a good time. I'm really blessed to have had that last experience on TV with him because, we gotta appreciate the people that we love close to us, and just as a nation, because we never know when it's my last day or your last day, dog. And if we just live everyone like it's our last, I think we'll do the right thing. Because I never expected Prince to get up out of here so quick. Never expected it. And thank God we have his music.
Absolutely. And my favorite part of that episode is when someone from the audience asked when was the last time that he watched Purple Rain, and him mentioning that he had caught it on television the previous Friday. And, just the idea of Prince channel surfing is just an image burned into my mind forever that makes me smile.
Yeah, and you know what? That movie was so iconic, it's hard to believe. That's why you really have to push for what you want in show business, because back in the day, there were people that had no idea that movie was going to work in the way that it did. And I think people got fired for not greenlighting that movie after it did take off. But it's interesting in retrospect to look back and realize that he was a genius and he knew something then that Hollywood didn't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting, too, to watch the sequel that he pretty much made entirely himself, Graffiti Bridge, that he shot inside of Paisley Park. And you can tell it's like if there's ever an idea of what it goes on inside of Prince's mind, like that movie is it in its entirety. Because it's his pure, unfiltered vision.
Cool, it's cool you bring that up because, he was he was a great musician, but he understood all the mediums. When Prince would come to my show, as a matter of fact, this last time, we shot that show because we wanted to take a lot of time, give Prince the whole hour. So we shot that show one evening, and we were going to let CBS look at it because they're very particular about what goes on. They have the situation after Janet Jackson went through what she went through at the Super Bowl. They're real picky about what they'll air and not air, and they're real tight over there, So Prince came in the next day when the censors wanted to look at the show, and he sat also with the editors. And the thing that amazed me when I was standing behind him, he knows all of it, dog. He knows everything, and it's amazing. I mean, he was talking to the editors, and he had them on their toes because he knows that stuff better than they do. And there was one point he gave a guy a suggestion in the editing room. He said, "Try this," and the guy did it, and it looked so much better. But he's an amazing guy. He's the real deal. He's the truth, dog.
Absolutely. And one last thing about that particular episode, like I mentioned, a huge Prince fanatic, he chose somewhere the choice was made to perform my favorite Prince B-side, "She's Always in My Hair," as the final song in that episode. Was that a request from you, or is that just something that Prince wanted to do? How did that come about?
That was totally him. And, the one thing about him is he knows what he wants, and he's never let me down. I've done it many times where I've just said, I want to do the whole hour with Prince, back in the day, and he never lets you down. Now, he'll call me and tell me how he wants to do it, and he'll send people early to rehearse and everything, but it is truly a Prince takeover when he comes. That's why a lot of people wouldn't do Prince on their shows in situations, because like George Lopez did him, and George Lopez said, "Hey, I'm going to let Prince do Prince." And it was a great night that George Lopez did with Prince when George had his show. But you really have to relinquish a little control, and a lot of artists have problems, relinquishing control to other artists. But when you trust somebody, like I trust him, this is a guy who was not only one of the greatest musicians we've ever known, but he was a friend. And I trusted him with my baby when he came to my crib, and that's how that went down. He chose everything. As a matter of fact, I saw Prince in the middle of the day. He had somebody call me to sign for furniture he wanted, because he wanted couches in front of him so people could chill and watch him in front of the studio audience. He wanted to change the whole mood of the studio. He was a bad dude, man.
Wow. Awesome. So speaking of having control, so coming out and doing stand-up again after, you mentioned, with so many things I have to go through, the network and with television and with, other mediums, do you find there's a certain more of a freedom now, especially in 2018?
Yeah, we're in crazy times because there's a political correctness that exists where a person like Kathy Griffin can do what she thinks is funny, and all of a sudden the government is at your door. These are crazy times, so you have to be careful, but at the same time, stand-up is the only true expression that I have. When you're doing television, I talked to you earlier about standards and practices and censors at CBS. They're tighter than the other networks. It's hard to be funny at CBS, but the bottom line is stand-up is where I go. It's this cathartic escape that I take, because I do make my living on TV. I do make my living reading teleprompters and dealing with censors. So to get to the clubs, and I had let it go for a long time. I had stopped doing stand-up. When my kid was growing up, I didn't want to be at the House of Comedy in Minnesota. I wanted to see my kid's first steps, and I wanted to know all his friends and watch him play ball. And so I got away from everything for about 15 years. And I think you ever been away from your woman, and when you see her walking through the airport coming towards you, it's the best feeling in the world. That's what stand-up is like to me. It's this wonderful thing that I love that now I have back. And it's a real great time for me. I hope people will come and check me out at Rick Bronson's House of Comedy Friday and Saturday.
Spectacular. Cool. Two more quick questions for you, just as a longtime fan. One, I want to talk a bit about Chunky A, your rap alter ego from the early 90s. How did that come together, and did you ever get a response from the rap contemporaries at the time in regard to, because there are a few, in this climate where, Eminem and MGK are beefing, and as of today, Frank Ocean and Travis Scott are beefing. You fired a few shots on that record.
That's funny. You know, that was another thing that, hey, when you're in this business, you have different ways of getting laughs. You do it in film, you do it on TV, you do it in stand-up. And at one point I was like, you know, I want to write funny songs. So I wrote a bunch of songs. I wrote one song that was a tribute to Prince. The song was entitled, I think the chorus actually was, "This song is too high for me. It should go to Prince." And it was about singing falsetto or something like that. But it was fun to get in the studio and write funny songs. And as far as like rap and its connection to rap, I called him Chunky A because one of my dear friends, who is probably performing in heaven with Prince tonight, Heavy D. Did you know Heavy D?
Oh, never met him personally, but huge fan of Heavy D and the Boys.
Yeah, he's a good guy, a good writer. Heavy, wasn't just a hip-hop artist. Heavy did incredible reggae music, and he passed away not too long ago, but he was my good friend, and Chunky A was like an answer to Heavy D.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a classic record. So finally, just in the Arsenio Hall realm of trivia, just one question I've always just personally wondered. The cameo you have in the Paula Abdul Straight Up video, for whatever reason, like when that video airs today, your face is blurred out. Do you have any idea why that might be?
Well, you know what? That's one of those interesting things. I saw that on the internet one day, and sometimes when you break up with somebody, it don't always go smooth. And I think my theory is that Paula was mad one day and had them wipe me out of the video. But that's only a theory.
Wow.
Maybe your flash drive was messed up or something, but I think that might be hell has no wrath like a woman scorned.
Gotcha. Yeah, because the only other instance I've seen of it being mentioned is you saying once, "Oh, that's because I was a minor," and I always thought that was really funny. So anyway.
Sometimes I'll answer it like that. See, one thing about humor is humor can be used to diffuse a situation, and it's the greatest tool in the world. And sometimes I'll answer the question that way, and then sometimes I'll give, a guy like you the real answer. The real answer is sometimes your woman get mad at you, man, when y'all break up, and that's what really went down. That's, the answer with no chaser.
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate that, and I'm looking so much more forward to seeing more of you. I'm going to be at the 7:30 show tonight, Rick Bronson's House of Comedy, Mall of America. 2 shows tonight, 2 shows tomorrow. Arsenio, thank you once again so much for this. So glad to see you back on that stand-up stage.
Hey, you're the best, dude. Thanks for having me on your show, and I'll talk to you maybe tonight, dog.
Sweet. Sounds good. Thanks so much.
Peace.
Peace.
Okay, take care.
You too.